Welcome to Zoom In, Zoom Out. I'm Alec MacDonald. The Asia-Pacific region is critical to the future of technology and global supply chains, and Taiwan is right in the middle of it all. But with changing geopolitical headwinds, how can businesses here stay resilient and maintain industry leadership? To find out more, we are joined by Dan Kritenbrink, former US Ambassador to Vietnam and now with Asia Group. Ambassador Kritenbrink, welcome to the show.
Alec, thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
So I wanted to start off talking really kind of generally about amid all these changing supply chain risk, investment with AI, we've seen a lot of changes over the past year or 2 years. How can Taiwan and its regional neighbors stay resilient?
Look, we as the Asia Group are here in Taiwan because we recognize that, first of all, Asia or the Indo-Pacific is really, I think, where the future, where the history of the 21st century will largely be written, right? This is the world's most dynamic, most populous, most rapidly, most technologically advanced region, and we believe that the most successful companies in the world need to be here and be part of that. And then to zoom in on Taiwan, Taiwan is absolutely central to the 21st century economy in so many ways. Certainly in the tech sector, where many of our clients do their business, but we have clients in healthcare, finance, a whole range of other sectors. In terms of resiliency, I think resiliency and diversification, those are the key watchwords I think that we discuss today with the world's leading companies and with our clients. I think more than ever you see that geopolitics, public policy, other factors have an impact on the corporate strategies for many of the world's leading companies. But if companies are going to be resilient, they've got to be diversified. They've got to understand both the challenges, the risks, but also the opportunities that they face. But look, you've got to be here in Asia. And I would argue, if you're in the tech sector, Taiwan is going to be central to your strategy.
Taiwan has expanded their overseas investments. And some critics have said this is sharing too much R&D, too much of Taiwan's technology to the world. We're not going to be able to protect what we do best. First, I want to ask, how would you respond to those critics? Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I think it's a false dichotomy. I don't think it's a black or white decision. If I take a step back and try to take a long-term perspective from where we started, how do we build resiliency for Taiwan? How does Taiwan make sure that it remains central to this high-tech ecosystem that we're talking about? I think Taiwan has to be invested overseas. Now, I don't think that means you undermine your competitiveness. I think Taiwan and your leadership and your companies, they'll have to decide exactly which technologies they're going to provide to partners. I would expect that Taiwan and many of your leading companies will probably keep some of the most sensitive and advanced technologies here at home. But I think it's very much in Taiwan's interest to continue to invest overseas, to further integrate in the global economy. And when you do that, whether those investments are in the United States or in Europe or elsewhere across Asia, it puts Taiwan and Taiwan companies closer to their customers, allows them to take advantage of local talent. But I think maybe more importantly, it integrates Taiwan more fully into the global economy by making sure your critical partners are your partners in every way. And if I think about resiliency and economic security for Taiwan going forward, I think the more economic partners that you have, the better. So I think it's a false choice.
Now, you have spent a long time here in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and as part of that, you developed a lot of new friendships, helped, made sure a lot of old friendships got better. So I want to ask, what was the most critical part of finding new friendships, enabling that cross-border investment?
Well, I guess, Alec, what I would come down to is whether it's on a personal basis or now that I'm a consultant, or if I reflect on my 31-year career as a diplomat, I think success is rooted primarily in relationships. My favorite definition of diplomacy is that it's based in relationships of trust, so that together you can achieve great things. I think that was the key to my success as a diplomat, key to the satisfying partnerships and friendships I have across the region. And it's the same advice that I give to our clients across this region. If you want to succeed in Asia, maybe it's true everywhere, but I think especially in Asia, you have to come into a market and be able to develop those relationships of trust. And how do you do that? I think you have to show you're committed to that market, to that country for the long run. You have to be reliable and credible. Do you do what you say? Do you deliver what you promised on time? I think if you do that, you will succeed. You certainly maximize your chances of succeeding. I think for those companies or those individuals who come in with maybe a more short-term transactional focus, I think you're much less likely to succeed in Asia and in Taiwan.
As a former senior diplomat, you've seen a lot of geopolitical change across your 31-year career. Now that you're a consultant, how would you advise businesses to not overreact to geopolitical changes and headwinds?
Alec, I think the key is finding the right balance. Look, at the Asia Group, we argue we help our clients navigate the intersection of geopolitics and corporate strategy. And I think increasingly, companies have to understand that geopolitics, international risk, public policy, these ought to be central components to a company's corporate strategy, not just some strange esoteric topic that you talk about once a year as a board, right? And you can see, I think it's more true than ever. There's been a lot of focus, I think, over the last almost 2 years on some of the disruption that's come from the second Trump administration and coming from Washington, D.C. But there's no shortage of other challenges. You know, we've got an energy-related crisis emanating from the Iran war, ongoing impacts from the war in Ukraine, no shortage of natural disasters and other risks here in Asia. Again, I think if you're a company, you have to factor those risks into your strategy. But your point is also a good one. You can't overreact. There's risk in absolutely every act that we engage in every day, whether it's as individuals or companies. It's being aware of that risk, baking that into your strategy, and then operating accordingly. I think more than ever, as we talked a little bit earlier, more than ever, I think diversification and resilience is key.
One of the questions that I hear a lot as a reporter is, does Taiwan have enough energy? This is one of the big questions we're facing in Taiwan.
Sure.
Do you hear that question a lot from international businesses coming to Taiwan, and how would you respond to them?
Well, Alec, I don't hear it put exactly that way. What I would say is Taiwan is not alone in recognizing that right now, in part because of the Iran war-related energy shocks that are underway. In addition to the AI boom that we've been talking about, which is going to be completely dependent on new and greater sources of energy, that energy is central to a lot of questions and calculations, not just for companies investing here in Taiwan, but really across the region. You know, some of my colleagues at the Asia Group have done a chart that shows a particular economy's vulnerability vis-a-vis the Strait of Hormuz and Middle Eastern energy sources. And you know, Taiwan is interesting because similar to, say, Japan and Korea and others, Taiwan is actually heavily dependent, obviously, on outside sources of energy, and much of that is coming out of the Gulf. But you know, Taiwan has certain advantages as well, including the reserves that you have, including your increasingly diversified, I think, energy relationships. And what I've heard even since being on the ground here for the last 2 days is that your companies and your leaders are well aware of these challenges and are pursuing, I think, sort of an all of the above energy strategy that's increasingly focused on diversification and resilience. How do you have secure, reliable sources of energy? I think the answer is diversification. I think that's where Taiwan is headed. But bluntly speaking, I think that's where all of your friends across the region are headed. I've had the same conversation just on this trip in Hanoi, Singapore, Seoul, and now Taipei. And the questions are the same in every capital. There is a concern, obviously. The 21st century economy more than ever runs on secure, reliable sources of energy. the AI data center boom is increasingly reliant on energy. But again, Taiwan faces the same challenge that everyone else does. I think your leadership is responding to it in a responsible way.
So in Taiwan, the Asia Group opened their Taipei office in 2024.
Yeah.
What does the Asia Group hope to contribute to Taiwan's policy, to Taiwan's business environment?
Well, look, our goal, I talked earlier about helping our clients navigate the intersection of geopolitics and corporate strategy. A simpler way to say it is we're trying to drive good investment into Taiwan that allows our clients and Taiwan companies in Taiwan writ large to benefit and succeed as well. And so whether it's across sectors such as healthcare or tech or finance and the like, we hope to be that bridge, right? That bridge that helps a foreign company understand how to operate in Taiwan. I'm really proud that we have clients at the Asia Group, many of whom are American, but an increasingly large number of our clients come from elsewhere in Asia, the Middle East, or Europe. And we help companies at every stage of the business cycle, from entering the market and making new investments to continuing to solidify maybe a longer term position in the market, to managing various challenges.
When businesses are entering Taiwan, what are some of the questions that they're asking about the market, about the business environment here that might be kind of around misconceptions about Taiwan that you think is important to clarify?
I think the biggest thing would be to make sure that you understand your customers, right? Every market has certain universal characteristics. Each market, including Taiwan, has individual characteristics. You have to know where's the consumer headed, what are the particular tastes or interests that they have. And then what we've been talking about all along, are there either risks or opportunities from a public policy perspective that might require engagement with the local authorities as well? I think it's finding that right mix and that right balance. The challenge comes in is if a client comes in and says, this is the way we do business everywhere, this is how we're going to do it here, that kind of rigid thinking is usually going to present challenges. But look, I would say for most companies, if they're coming to look at Taiwan to invest, I think they usually come with the right mindset.
One of those questions might be explicitly about the geopolitical risk in Taiwan.
Yeah.
That's what people talk about most when they see Taiwan.
Yeah,
so
for better or for worse, that's what people think about first usually.
Yes. So when they ask you that question, how would you respond to them to think about the opportunities or other risks as well, so that what we talked about earlier, they're not just focusing on one aspect of risk, they're looking at all the dimensions?
Yeah, I guess I'd go back to what I said earlier. There's risk in every market in this region and around the world. I think the key is keeping it in the proper perspective. We see tremendous opportunities here in Taiwan. It's why we're here. It's why we're supporting our globally leading companies here that are our many clients. I think, you can think about certain high-end risk scenarios that could be truly consequential. I also think they're the least likely to occur. So I think it's really important, step back, take a longer term perspective, think about the tremendous opportunities, then put them up against whatever the risks may be. But I think if you think about our presence here and that of our clients, I think we've got the right risk perspective.
Dan, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a really great conversation.
Alec, thank you. What an honor to be here. I really, really enjoyed speaking with you.
This has been Zoom in, Zoom out. For more stories from Taiwan Plus News, you can follow us on social media or visit us at taiwanplus.com. Until next time.